Since 1999, the Berkshire Hathaway stock has really not gone up appreciably, whereas gold has gone up multiple times. I don't own your stock for the glamour. I want to earn money. What happened?
Well, I would say this, that when we took over Berkshire, gold was at $20 and Berkshire was at 15. So gold is now at 1,600 and Berkshire's at 120,000. So you can pick different starting periods. Obviously, if you pick anything that's gone up a lot in the last, month or year, I mean, it will beat 90% of or 95% of other investments. But the one thing I would bet my life on, essentially, is over a 50-year period, not only will Berkshire do considerably better than gold, but common stocks as a group will do better than gold, and probably farmland will do better than gold. I mean, if you own an ounce of gold now and you caress it for the next 100 years, you'll have an ounce of gold 100 years from now. If you own 100 acres of farmland, you'll also have 100 acres of farmland 100 years from now, and you'll have taken the crops for 100 years and sold them, and presumably bought more farmland with the process. It's very hard for an unproductive investment to beat productive investments over any long period of time, and it's very interesting. I can say bonds are no good, and Bernanke still smiles at me. But if you say anything negative about gold, I mean, it arouses passions with people, which is kind of fascinating, because usually if you thought through something intellectually, it shouldn't really make much difference what people say. It should be the question is whether your facts are right and your reasoning is right. But when you run into people that are really excited about gold, and I came from a family where my dad loved gold, and he was tolerant. He could take a discussion of it. I find many people have trouble with it. Charlie?
Well, I have never had the slightest interest in owning gold. It's a much better life to work with businesses and people engaged in business. I can't imagine a worse crowd to deal with than a bunch of gold bugs.
Commodity market, and particularly gold, have appreciated astronomically over the last few years. Please explain why you have not invested more heavily in commodities.
There are three major categories of investment. You ought to think very hard about which category you want to be in before you start thinking about the choices available within that category. Now, the first category is anything denominated in a currency. It can be bonds, it can be deposits in a bank, it can be a money market fund, it can be cash in your pocket. Almost all currencies have declined in value over time. So, as a class, currency-related investments, whether they're in the UK or the United States or any place else, unless we're getting paid extremely well for having them, we do not think make much sense. The second category of investments regard items that you buy that don't produce anything, but that you hope someone will pay you more for later on. And the classic case of that is gold. If you take all of the gold in the world and put it into a cube, it will be a cube that's about 67 feet on a side. It'd be 165,000 or 170,000 metric tons. So you could have a cube if you owned all the gold in the world, and you could get a ladder and you could climb up on top of it, and you could say, I'm sitting on top of the world, and think you're king of the world. You could fondle it, you could polish it, you could stare at it, but it isn't going to do anything. It's all you are doing when you buy that is that you're hoping that somebody else a year from now or 5 years from now will pay you more to own something that, again, can't do anything, but you're hoping that the person then thinks that somebody else will buy something 5 years later from him. In other words, you're betting on not just how scared people are now of paper money. You're betting on how much they think a year from now people will be scared 2 years from then on. The third category of asset is something that you value based on its what it will produce, what it will deliver. You buy a farm because you expect a certain amount of corn or soybeans or cotton or whatever it may be to come your way every year. And you decide how much you pay based on how much you think the asset itself will deliver over time. And those are the assets that appeal to me and Charlie. Now,
how would you advise investors looking at commodities right now? I mean, there's been such a rush into gold, especially lately, but really over the past few years. Is gold at these levels a wise investment for an average investor?
Well, I think no. And the reason I say no is gold is not an investment at all. Gold, to go back to where we started, Poppy, is a speculation. It has absolutely no underlying intrinsic value. You know, bonds are ultimately supported by interest coupons. Stocks are supported by dividend yields and earnings growth. And gold is supported by, well, the ability to think somebody else is going to take it off your hands for more than you paid for it. So it's a speculation. Is it a good speculation today? I don't know that I'd be much of an expert on that, but it's gone so high so far that I'd be very skeptical of it. But if you really are bitten by the gold bug, and it seems like an awful lot of people have been bitten by the gold bug, and if you want to speculate, you know, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or even 5% of your assets in gold is not the worst idea in the world, but I wouldn't do it myself, and I wouldn't advise most investors to do it.